think this is the year the Clippers finally challenge the Lakers in the playoffs?
Absolutely. Challenge them. I mean, I'm picking the Lakers to win the series, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Clippers were able to upset them. The Clippers are a very good team. And last year, they didn't have time together as far as playing time on the court. Their attitude was not where it needed to be, and they didn't want to be in the bubble. So they underachieved. This year, they've improved in those areas. So, yes, I think they are the second best team in the Western Conference, everybody being healthy. So I think they're the Lakers' biggest challenger out west. Paul George, as you said, J-Mac, is playing tremendous basketball. Career highs in field goal percentage, 48%. Three-point percentage, 44%. Assists per game, 5.5 dimes a night. He's scoring 23 points. His career high was 28 in OKC a few years ago. But I think this may be Paul George's best regular season. Now, of course, nobody wants to hear that. All right, what we want to see from Paul George is you get it done in the postseason. You call yourself playoff P. You can't be way off P. You got to go out there and get it done in the playoffs. So that's what we're looking for. But I think the Clippers, these three areas, they needed to improve in, and they have. Number one, defensively. For most of the year, they were a mediocre defense, which is unfathomable when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the wings. Since the All-Star break, they've been like a top 5-6 defense in the league. That is huge. Second thing they needed, leadership from the players, not just the coach, but the players. That's not him. PG, that's not really him, even though he may think it is. It is Rajon Rondo. And Rondo can come in there. He's got the respect of everyone. He's won the championships. He's got great basketball IQ, and he can be that leader. So now Kawhi doesn't have to try to be something he's not. And then thirdly, they needed a point guard down the stretch of games. They were not good in the clutch because they put the ball in Kawhi's hands or Paul George's hands because they can handle the ball and they're good passers. That doesn't make you a playmaker, though. That doesn't make you a point guard. And so they would end up going a lot of one-on-one ISO. Now they've got Rondo with the ball in his hands, and he can get it to the right guy in the right spot where they need it to be most effective, and that is big for the Clippers. So they are a very good team, and they will give the Lakers all they want in a playoff series.
I'll say this. I do not think this is the year that the Clippers get them or challenge them in the playoffs, even though I think that this is a wounded Lakers team. I do not have a trust as of yet. And this just personally me looking at how the performances have gone for the Lakers, for the Clippers in the playoffs just last year. Like you said, they didn't want to be in the bubble. It showed. But it also led me to believe that this team wasn't mentally prepared for the magnitude of playing in the playoffs against a team like the LA Lakers. I look at three players in particular, maybe three in a possible, if we're talking in spades terminology here. I look at Kyle Kuzma, I look at Schroeder, and I look at Drummond, and I look at Montrezl Harrell. If those four guys can bring a high enough level to what it is that they're doing, this Lakers team will still be a team that is difficult to beat by the Clippers or any other team in the West. I don't see the Clippers being that team that's going to be able to knock them off. I'm not putting AD in the mix, but if you get a LeBron back in the mix, which we are fully expecting to see that take place, and you add him to that group that I just named, I think that it's too much. You add some of the other guys in there, if they're, Morris and obviously Gasol, if they bring what they need to bring to the table as players, I think they're too much for the Clippers. And I think it's more of a mental block more than anything that gives the Lakers the edge in this matchup this year or any year.
They will definitely challenge the Lakers. This Clippers team will definitely challenge the Lakers, and it's simply because of the way Paul George has been playing. When you look at what he's been able to do, we know who he is offensively in the regular season, and we know what he has not been in the postseason. But if he has this ability to go into the postseason and this level of confidence,
you said
and they're playing
disability
through him the way that they are playing right now, I think Ty Lue is doing a tremendous job with this group of guys to get them to where they have been and what they can potentially be is going to take them challenging a team like the Lakers. They're not as big as the Lakers. I think that's where they could fall short. But as far as challenging them defensively, offensively, they match up really well against their perimeter. And Paul George and Kawhi are one of two of the best in the league of going both ways. So I think that they give the Lakers so many fits there. Offensively is where the Lakers kind of have the advantage in the post. When you add Drummond in the size, and if AD is healthy, his size, that's where the Lakers can kind of run away with this thing. But can they actually implement that, and can they execute that? It is the question. For me, I like the Clippers. I don't like them over the Lakers, but they definitely will challenge them this year. And I think a large part of it has to do with the fact that they did fall short last year. They do know that they didn't take advantage of an opportunity last year.
Oh, so they got a chip on their shoulder.
They don't want that to happen.
So they got a chip on their shoulder is what you're saying, huh?
On their shoulder.
They got the chip. I just love this. Greg and Chris. I mean, listen, the bottom line, if the Lakers are healthy, if LeBron and AD can walk and breathe, the Lakers steamroll the Clippers, maybe a gentleman's sweep. By the way, I love LaVar. I know you loved hearing Chris excuse maker Broussard.
Yeah.
Well, last year, the Clippers, they didn't have a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And they didn't really want to be in the bubble. And
Yeah.
eventually we'll get to, well, Doc Rivers and then Montrezl Harrell didn't play well. And then Lou Williams and his chicken wings. Like, it's all excuses. That's always what it is for the paper clips. They are gigantic frauds, okay? Paul George, who's on my son's fantasy team, we love him. He's hot right now. And you know what's going to happen. He's going to see Jamal Murray's smoke in the playoffs last year and just fade like usual. Okay, right now, the Clippers, Chris, I think we can both agree are probably the fourth best team in the West. The Lakers, healthy, are the best. I think the Utah Jazz, I think the Phoenix Suns, they're both better than the paper clips. And I love this solution, LaVar. Don't you love this? Like, hey, Clippers don't have a point guard. Well, they got a 35-year-old Rajon Rondo who's been there for like 8 minutes. And now he, all of a sudden, is the vocal leader in the locker room. Like, Chris, this is the same damn team from last year, okay? They just promote Ty Lue to coach, and you replace Lou Williams, a scoring machine, with Rondo, and you replace Harrell with Serge Ibaka, and suddenly they can compete with the Lakers, who got better, I should add, having Harrell, who has a bigger chip on his shoulder for the Clippers than anybody on the Clippers roster. Like, this is a Lakers team. If healthy, they dominate the Clippers. It's not close.
Get them, Mac. What you going to say about that, Broussard?
Hey, Mac.
What you going to say about that?
There is a difference between an excuse and an explanation. All right, that was an explanation that I gave, not an excuse. All right,
dope.
And that was cute. Oh, a gentleman's sweep, 4 games, 5 games. Stop it. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Lakers. I'm saying they could beat the Lakers. I'm saying they're legit. And they're better than Denver. They're better than Utah. They're better than Phoenix. All right, stop it. It's the Lakers and the Clippers out west. Now, what I do want to see from the Clippers to try to beat the Lakers, Kawhi or Paul George always on LeBron. One of them. I don't need to see Terrence Mann on LeBron. I don't need to see anybody else on LeBron. Kawhi Leonard, you made your reputation in this league by playing defense on LeBron, actually, in the finals way back in San Antonio. Guard LeBron. And when you're not on him, it should be Paul George. That's a great strength of theirs. You can't back off the challenge of facing LeBron James if you want to beat that team.
Chris Broussard, you had a chip on your shoulder on that take you just had. I was kind of intimidated, a little bit nervous. I'm going to give it to you, J-Mac. I don't even want to respond
to it. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't mention the immortal defensive presence of Luke Kennard or the dog, Patrick Beverley. All right, I got to stop.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.